Welcome to the RadioU Podcast. Coming up, why one Singaporean man should have just called in sad to work.
Also, how an anglerfish united all of the internet.
All that and more on the way next. A grim reminder that you need to adhere to the seatbelt sign when it's turned on a plane. In Toronto, a plane wound up completely upside down. 80 people on the plane, 76 passengers, 4 crew members. Miraculously, they're all supposed to survive. The plane landed upside down. So there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me. One is how everybody survived, but I'm going to take that as a massive win.
Yeah, absolutely.
If somebody told you your plane is going to land upside down that you're riding on, you're expecting that you would perish.
I don't know if I'd expect to perish, but certainly would expect injuries. And there were people that were injured, but it's obviously awesome that no one is expected to die. There are some people in critical condition. I'm not entirely sure how that all works. I think that means ICU. I don't know, but hopefully those people will fully recover, because one of them is also a child. So hopefully that'll be something where they can recover quickly from those injuries. But a massive praise there that no one is dead. Yeah,
of course. We wish everybody a speedy recovery and even miraculous too that you're talking about. It says about 18 people, it looks like, wound up with injuries, going to the hospital and whatever, a few in critical condition. And even that means that over 50 people, or right around 50 people, right? Landed in a plane upside down.
Yep.
And walked away completely unscathed.
Completely fine.
That, again, you probably would expect if a plane landed upside down, you'd be thinking, well, probably the worst.
Yeah.
And you certainly wouldn't be thinking, well, I'm just going to walk away from this as if nothing happened. And yet that is exactly what is going on for many people from this flight. It was from Minneapolis to Toronto. And what I do not understand, and this is the question I would answer, and I've looked at so many articles, and nobody knows yet, at least not enough to say, how does a plane wind up upside down?
Right. That's what I'm trying to figure out. They did say that the runway conditions were dry and there were no crosswinds. That's what the fire chief said. That was like the responding, crew or whatever, to this accident. And upon further review of the photos from the crash, I would like to disagree. I know that the plane probably ended up in a place that wasn't the actual landing area, but it looks pretty covered with snow and ice and whatnot. And so I don't know if I fully agree with the idea that there were no possibilities of some type of slick ice or spots on that runway. Because I just, like you said, I have no other idea of what would cause this. It would make sense if the pilot hit a slick spot and loses control of the plane while they're landing, and that is how they end up doing this.
That seems like a simple explanation.
Right.
I'm not a pilot or have any expertise in any of this area. It's maybe shocking to people, but I've never done any flight school or anything. So I have no hypotheses or anything, though your explanation seems like a simple, easy to understand one. I just want somebody to say something. Yeah. Because at the moment, it's just the plane wound up upside down. How? I don't know.
I mean, the fire chief to me saying this thing of the conditions were dry and there was no crosswinds, it almost makes it seem like this pilot's an idiot. It's like, well, the conditions were fine. What were you doing?
Yeah.
I don't want to believe that that's actually the case. And so I'm also like, you're a fire chief. How do you know that the complete landing strip was fine?
Yeah.
So, I feel like there's probably more information that will come out later that'll be like, yeah, actually there was a patch of ice. This is Toronto, Canada.
Well, it's Toronto, Canada. You think they haven't seen ice before?
Well, that's true too. And
maybe that's the problem. The runway was so dry that they're just like, we're not used to this.
Right.
So non-ice.
They were overcompensating.
Yeah, I have no idea. But I mean, obviously investigations will be had and answers, I'm sure, will come out at one point. But again, a miracle that everybody seems to be walking away, at least walking away, surviving a few injuries, but still, even that, a miracle considering the conditions that this plane wound up in.
That's right.
So of course, a speedy recovery to everybody. And just unbelievable. You never know when your white lie to get out of work could come back to bite you. That's one thing that a man in Singapore has found out the hard way, because he's now been fined thousands of dollars after he forged his grandfather's death certificate to get out of work.
Oh my goodness.
Which, this whole story is crazy to me. It starts with a 29-year-old guy that wanted to get out of work. That's not unusual. The reason he wanted to get out of work is because his then girlfriend, this is back in November of 2023, cheated on him.
Oh no.
And so he was so devastated that he thought he couldn't focus on work, so he wanted to take some time off. That's, I think, understandable. I think we should be able to just call in devastated to work. You should just be able to call in sad.
We're devastated. We can't come in today.
Sorry, boss. I'm not going to be able to make it. I'm devastated. But if you said my girlfriend cheated on me, he probably would be like, yeah, you can have the day off.
Yeah.
I feel like he would give you at least one day, but I don't know how things are at this job and in Singapore. Apparently, pretty extreme, because rather than applying for paid compensation leave for a few days to recover from his girlfriend cheating on him, instead, he claimed that he had to go travel to his grandfather who had just died in India. That was a lie. But here's where things get very much different than I feel like it would be here at Radio U, because his request to have some time off was granted, but his supervisor asked for his grandfather's death certificate, which is a crazy thing.
That's insane. But also must tell you how many people try to abuse this, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they need. They need proof.
Or just what the work culture in like Singapore and I think in Asia generally,
it's very different.
A little more extreme. There's a little higher demands,
right,
I think, placed on you. And so rather than be like, all right, you caught me. It was just my girlfriend cheating on me. My grandfather didn't die. Instead, this guy in question decided to contact a relative of his friend who had died in July of 2023, claiming that he needed a copy of that death certificate to justify his time off of work. And he forged the document to show his grandfather instead. It didn't work, of course. It was because it was fake. And his supervisor saw right through the ruse. And then he decided to resign because he was caught. But also he tried to forge a death certificate, which in most places I'm sure is illegal, including Singapore. And so he wound up getting fined $4,000. Yeah,
I feel like that is just overall, probably on the low end as far as like forging a death certificate and like, lying.
He got off easy.
Yeah, I mean, in Singapore probably. But so, yeah, I just feel like overall this was pretty poor planning, not really thought out very well. And like you said earlier, he had several days of leave that he could have used for this devastation that he was going through. Why not just use those?
And
why come up with this ruse?
Most of the time, you're like your days reset at the end of the year. This was in November, so he just had to make it through a month. If they use the same calendar that we do, I don't know if they like that. Singapore borders China. Maybe they use the Chinese. Still, what do you have, like 2 months then?
Right.
You shouldn't have had that much time. And what are the odds that you're going to get another girlfriend and she's going to cheat on you in that period of time, and you're going to be so devastated you need more time off?
Right.
He should have. I think, but sometimes, you just don't want to give up on the lie. You feel like if I just get through this one more thing, then this will all go away. It'll blow over. I'll be off scot-free. And he kept pushing and pushing, and it only took a few steps for him to keep pushing before eventually it caught up to him.
Yep, the lie comes crashing down. And you know what the Bible says, Hudson? The truth will set you free.
That's right. If you just literally say, my girlfriend cheated on me, I need some days off.
Yep.
I hope they would give them to you.
I would imagine if you're just applying for the leave that you already have, you would have gotten it.
And if they don't give it to you, you know what? You need a new job anyways.
Right.
I think 2025 is the year of driving.
Of driving?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because obviously you'd be forgiven if you don't want to fly right now. And on top of that, you don't want to take a cruise. Okay. So boats are out.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why you don't want to take a cruise, because cruise season is off to an even sicker start than normal. Obviously, any time you go on a cruise, you definitely run the risk of getting norovirus. And sure enough, that's a typical risk. But this year, according to some statistics from the CDC, it seems that even more people have been getting norovirus on cruise ships than normal. There's already been 2 separate outbreaks of gastrointestinal illness, aka norovirus, that have affected over 100 people each that have been reported just so far in the last month.
Oh, man.
That's not good.
No.
There's not that many cruise ships out there. And there are that many people getting sick. I don't like to hear that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just kind of working it. I mean, and here's the reality of it, Hudson. Sickness has been working its way through our society right now because everyone I know, including myself, has been sick recently. So it just seems like this is translated onto a cruise ship. But the worst part about a cruise ship, you can't get away from the sick people.
Yeah.
You're stuck on the boat together.
Yeah, you can, if you find out everybody at your job is sick or something, like you can work from home, or they'll all go home. If you're on a cruise ship and somebody else gets sick, odds are you're also going to wind up sick.
Yeah.
But you did raise an interesting point, though.
What?
You said everybody seems to be getting sick anyways.
Right.
If you're going to be sick, maybe you might as well be sick on a cruise ship. At least there's like a buffet and entertainment, and you're at sea.
I guess if you have no conscience and you just want to spread your sickness to everybody else, and you're like, okay, I guess I'll take my sickness to the absolute worst place to take it, which would be a buffet. Let me just go ahead and do that.
Yeah, what is it about cruise ships that's making everybody sick? Because it'd be the buffet where one person shows up and coughs on everything, and then all of a sudden, I don't know. But what if you see sickness every winter as an inevitability, then you just go, well, I'm going to get sick eventually. Might as well just go on a cruise, get it out of the way. I'll get sick on a cruise. I'll be enjoying a vacation, and then I'll also come back immune to any future sickness. And then, but then you're thinking about that, and you're not going to be able to take any sick time off of work because you're not going to get sick to take that time off of work. So, I don't know, it's a difficult calculation.
Yeah, I don't know if you should be thinking about that, but I definitely am the type of person when I'm sick, I don't really like to be seen by a lot of people because I just feel like when you feel bad, you just feel bad, and you're just like, I don't want to be around people right now. That's kind of how I am, and so most of the time when I was sick over the past couple of weeks, I would just go home and just be like, dead for the rest of the night or whatever. And so I feel like I would actually hate being on a cruise with like 1,000 people, and I'd be like, I have to go out there and I have to go get food and I have to see people. It's like, I'd much rather be home.
I think the best place, and I don't want to go on a cruise.
Okay.
That's not like, there's other vacations that appeal to me.
Okay.
But I think being sick on a cruise would be good for me because I find the motivation to, like, even if I'm sick and I have nothing going on, then I'm going to complain more. But if I'm sick and I need to go, like, you need to go do cruise stuff, that would motivate me to like push through,
That's fair, because you don't want to waste the trip. That's what I would be worried about. Is I don't want to waste all this money on this trip.
That's why being sick on a cruise would be best. It's, for me anyways. Costco seems to have struck a deal with the fine folks at Kit Kat to unveil a brand new flavor that is exclusive to Costco. How does this sound to you, Allie? Cotton candy Kit Kats.
I mean, it just sounds like you'd be adding a lot more sugar to a Kit Kat.
Yeah. I must be too old for this, and I'm not old, but just feel like, the proper age range to be excited about something cotton candy flavored is like 5 years old to 9 years old. And so I've outgrown this. Cotton candy does nothing for me at all.
Yeah.
And so this does not appeal to me whatsoever. However, in the spirit of Radio U, I think we will have to find somebody with a Costco membership to get these for us.
Yeah,
for a food fight.
Last time we did this, it was with the Pringles that were the loaded hot dog. Those were also a Costco exclusive. We had to pull some strings to get that.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it again.
We'll have to call in a few favors to get these cotton candy Kit Kats for the show. But it feels so... Does cotton candy flavored things feel lazy?
I mean, here's the thing. I don't ever feel like and I haven't eaten cotton candy in a long time, so maybe this is just inaccurate. But anytime I ate cotton candy, I felt like there really wasn't a flavor to it.
There isn't. It's just sugar.
It's just sugar.
It's
yeah.
just colored sugar.
Yeah, and so I'm like, how's that going to make that big of a difference to a chocolate bar? It's just going to be sweeter, right? Which I don't think I would want.
I imagine it just kind of tasting almost like white chocolate, kind of, right?
Yeah, which here's the thing. I like dark chocolate because I don't like it to be super sweet.
Yeah, because you're bitter. Yeah, makes sense.
I'm bitter?
Yeah.
No, I'm more of a savory gal. And so like the sweetest stuff for me is just like, it's too sweet, So my barrier for chocolate is usually at dark chocolate. That's where I go. But this sounds like it's going to be something where I'm like, I'll take a little bite and that'll be enough.
Yeah, but there's got to be some people that are excited about this, right?
Sure.
Kindergartners, perhaps.
I mean, any kids, if you tell them that they can get a candy bar, I don't think they're going to be upset.
Can you picture this? Picture 2 like grown adults walking around a carnival, and they're each holding a cone of cotton candy. Can you imagine that? I can't even picture that.
I mean, I think I've seen adults have cotton candy before, but I also think as adults, we realize it's just sugar. And so we're just like, I'm going to spend my sugar on something else.
Yeah. Yeah, at least something more bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Because cotton candy doesn't even fill you up. It does nothing for you.
No.
But if we get hooked up with this cotton candy Kit Kat, we will do our due diligence. We will try for a food fight. And if you're interested, you're going to have to get a Costco membership because the cotton candy Kit Kats, not only exclusive to Costco, but they only come in a variety bag with like other regular Kit Kats, which honestly, probably going to be better. If you need a shoulder to cry on, we are here during this difficult time where we collectively mourn the passing of the anglerfish that was filmed swimming to the surface of the sea. If you're familiar with anglerfish, they live down in the deep, dark depths of the ocean.
Yes.
They're like in Finding Nemo. They're that fish that has the little light that hangs over their head. Mm-hmm. And the internet has come together to collectively mourn and mythologize an anglerfish that in some spectacular footage was filmed literally swimming up straight, like at a 90-degree angle, straight up to the surface, which of course is where it met its demise. Mm-hmm. Its final moments were spent swimming towards the light, and the light that it did not create on its own.
Oh,
I know, it's so sad, it's so heartbreaking. And then you have people online that have like put up made animated stories, backstories to why this anglerfish decided to do this. Like it was asking other sea creatures about, have they seen the surface? And they all rejected it because it's so terrifying looking. So finally he's like, I'm going to find out for myself. That's one theory that some folks have had. Actual scientists say that it may have been doing this because of an illness or to escape a predator.
Yeah.
But I guess we will never truly know why this anglerfish did it. But either way, it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah, I mean, the video, like you said, is super dramatic, and I don't think the scientists that posted it planned that or even thought that it was going to turn into this big lore machine on TikTok. But they posted it with, like, the Phantom of the Opera music, because apparently this particular anglerfish is called, like, the Black Devil or something like that.
Well, it
so
looks like... It looks like a demon for sure. Just like every deep sea fish, to be fair.
Yeah, they all look a little crazy. And also, when they are closer to the surface, they do look a little more crazy. And that's because they're so like bloated and just like out of,
Well, when they're down in the deep depths of the ocean, there's so much pressure on them from all the water. And then as they float up, they decompress or whatever.
Yeah,
so.
it's not quite what they're supposed to look
Yeah.
like. So I know we judge a lot of the fish, the deep sea fish that do come up here, and we're like, why do they look so weird?
The blobfish.
The blobfish. It's like, it's a little blobbier than it actually would be, Bob, because it's up here where it's not supposed to be.
It's the opposite of it's water weight. It's the opposite. It's the total opposite.
So yeah, but it does look pretty crazy coming up there, and it's just swimming very, very slowly as it's going to its death.
There is some kind of it's a beautiful juxtaposition, because it almost looks, instead of like an angel rising to the heavens, it's this demonic creature slowly floating up in much the same way. It even has with its light. It's almost like it's equivalent of a halo. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's definitely worth seeing, and and just be prepared to shed a tear, I think.
Honestly, yeah, it does make you a little sad, other than when you turn the sound on and it's like the Phantom of the Opera. Then you're like, oh, okay, well, it's fine. But but my thing that got me was there was a user on TikTok that created a little like AI animation, and it gave this little anglerfish a backstory, and like you said, was asking like, what's the...
He talks to a crab or whatever.
He's like, what does the surface look like? I gotta go find out for myself. And they animated it to look like a Pixar movie, which Pixar movies already make us cry. Yeah. And so when it makes it up, it's just like, it's so beautiful. And then like it floats back down into the water, and you're like, why is this killing me right now?
Yeah. Well, deep sea anglerfish, they're not that different from us.
Apparently not.
Right. We share some similarities with them. But I do find it funny that the fish would be rejected for its looks down at the bottom of the sea, where yet again, every animal down there looks the same. They're all demonic creatures in the abyss.
There's a plot hole in this AI video.
Yeah. We might have to make this a new segment, Allie. Stats that'll blow your mind. Because this stat is crazy to me, that 60%, almost 60% of people in the United States are living basically paycheck to paycheck with no savings and no wiggle room in their budget. That's crazy. But then, and obviously that's a high number generally, but that number doesn't really change all that much, even if you go up to like people making six figures. Like you'd think people making over $100,000 a year, as you go up the line and make even more money, that the number of people living paycheck to paycheck making that salary would go down.
Nope.
It's almost exactly the same.
Nope.
Like still if you get to $100,000 a year, over 50% of people are living paycheck to paycheck at that salary. Yeah. It's crazy.
It doesn't matter how much money you make. It's like how you take care of it and spend it. That's what matters.
It doesn't. I feel like some people your mind may go to, well, that doesn't say much for our, cost of living and our economy, which is true that inflation has run rampant in recent years and everything's gotten more expensive, but that still doesn't account for you're making $100,000, you have no savings.
Yeah.
And it isn't to make anybody feel bad, because obviously, basically the majority of us are in this situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck. What it does tell me is that we aren't very great at planning long term generally. We're very impulsive people.
Yeah.
And we are okay with the short term stuff, but we do not set ourselves up generally very well long term, because we want what we want now, and it's hard to think about the future when you want what you want now.
Exactly.
So here is my solution, is a relationship with God, because one of the things that when you're talking to God and when you're letting him into your life, it will train you to know that again, I've said this so many times here before, but that you don't need as much as you think you need to be happy. You don't need to be spending all of your paycheck on certain things to be able to feel happy, but also that like God will help you in the short term, but he also is huge on helping you with long-term stuff and helping you be less impulsive, which is where so many of our issues, not just with money, but with so many other things come from, is being impulsive people and not being able to hold back sometimes and go, but is this really best for me long term?
Right. And I think we talked about it yesterday too, with the whole like advertisers think we're stupid thing. And sometimes we fall into those traps, unfortunately, and I guess prove them right in some scenarios. But we need to ask ourselves that question of like, what do we need versus what do we want? Because there is a big difference there. And like you said, the things that we need, it's a real small amount of stuff compared to what we actually have in life. And one of those big things is God. And when you do have God in your life, he brings that perspective for you to be able to answer that question of what do I need versus what do I want? And so that is just one of the great benefits of having a relationship with God, is it's so helpful with giving you that perspective.
Yeah. And one of the, like, some people I feel like people try to present God as like, well, when you start praying to God or whatever, he's going to give you all the money you need or whatever. And that in a sense is true, but not in the sense of, well, he's going to make you rich. Yeah. Because as we see here, even if you're rich, if your mindset doesn't change, that doesn't help you very much. But what God will do is he will take care of you. He will provide for you. And that honestly may just be on what you're making right now. Yep. But it's just helping you actually use that better.
Exactly. Helps you be a better steward of what you have been given, what you've been blessed with.
Exactly. So find out what that's like. If you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck, believe it or not, God can help. Say, hey, Jesus, I need some help with that. I need to be less impulsive. I need to plan better for the future. And I just need you. And he will help you out with that. RadioU.com/free gift. Now move over, Grover. It's time to let Allie take over.
Oh, I laughed making that intro the whole time.
Why the polka music?
I don't know. I tried to make it quirky. It's like supposed to be alley as in my name, but also like an alleyway. So that's why the trash can and the cat.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. The polka music, though. It's
me, you know, it really encapsulates the quirkiness of me.
All right.
So for today's Right Up My Alley, later this week, something is returning, Hudson. And I think we're both excited about that. And that's baseball. Spring training kicks off with games on Thursday. Actually, just one game on Thursday, but kicks off on Thursday.
That's enough.
So I thought it would be fun, and you might actually do quite well at this because you know baseball. But I thought it'd be fun no matter what, even if you do get all of these right. And that was to quiz you on your baseball terms, including some baseball slang.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I've done pretty good at Right Up My Alley in the past.
You have. I feel like for both times you got like 2 out of 3.
Yeah, and those are on subjects I had no knowledge of.
Yeah, pretty much.
That I knew of anyways. So,
yeah.
Play along at home, of course.
Yes.
8772 Radio U.
Put your answers in. As if you've tuned in the past to Right Up My Alley, what we do is we got 3 questions and they get progressively harder. So the first one, I think you should know this. If you don't know this, I'd be disappointed.
Yeah.
So baseball term, what does this mean? Oppo taco.
That's a home run to the opposite field.
Yes, good job. Number 2, can of corn.
That is a easy fly ball, a lazy fly ball.
To where?
To the glove.
No, to where in the field.
I didn't know it was specifically somewhere in the field.
Yep.
That right field.
Just to the outfield, so I'll give it to you. But yeah, it's a routine fly ball to the outfield.
Yeah, I mean, the infield doesn't get routine. I mean, you know, it's not the same.
Not the same, yeah. So the last one is probably the hardest, and I feel like it's because it's not actually slang. It's something that's used for stats, for pitching stats.
Okay.
And so if you know this, I think it'll be pretty cool. But it is often referred to as something else. So even I was surprised by this.
Okay.
But when you're reading a pitcher's stats and you see this, what does it mean? BQR.
BQR. I don't know if I've ever even seen that.
Yeah.
Balls qualifying reluctantly.
So I don't even know how they would like put this in a pitcher stats or whatever, but it actually is for bequeathed runners.
What?
Yes.
What century was that? Was that stat used?
This is from the official MLB website. So BQR, they will put this in for when a previous pitcher leaves runners on base. And those runners are counted against their ERA if they score.
Okay.
And they're considered BQR. They are bequeathed runners to the current pitcher in the game.
Got it.
So
yeah, I'm familiar with that scenario that would happen.
It's called inherited runners.
Right.
We referred to this as inherited runners, or like in a baseball call, you'll hear inherited. But yeah, it's actually called BQR, bequeathed runners.
I've never heard that at all.
I hadn't either.
So I don't feel bad about not knowing it.
I mean, I just thought it'd be a very hard question for the last one.
It's you know what? I don't even think that counts. But I was worried you were going to quiz me on what pagoda means.
Pagoda?
Yeah, have you ever heard of pagoda?
I don't think I have.
I always think of Abe Vigoda, but that's not what it is at all. Pagoda is like a analytics projection kind of thing that's used a lot.
Oh.
Player empirical comparison and optimization test algorithm.
Oh man, yeah, I'm not up to date with all of that stuff. I do like the stats.
But bequeathed runners, you know about.
Well, I mean, there's so many stats in baseball. There's an insane amount. If you go to the glossary on like MLB.com or whatever, it's like massive amount of pages of stuff. And but yeah, I like all the stats, but all of like the newer analytical stuff, like if you were to show me I don't even know, like the baseball savant page or whatever, it's like, this is a lot. So yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to baseball season. The Red Sox should have a really good year, unless their pitching staff bequeaths too many runners to the bullpen, and then we're in for some trouble. This is horrifying, but it's I guess an important lesson to learn before it happens to you. A 55-year-old tourist in the Turks and Caicos, those are like islands in the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
An island nation, had to have both of her hands amputated off after a shark bit them off, basically. But the problem is, it's her fault, reportedly, because she tried to grab the shark to pose with it for photos, which is a big no-no. And she learned that the hard way, because now she's missing both of her hands.
Oh, my goodness. So stupid. I don't obviously want to kick someone while they're down, but what in the world were you thinking was going to happen? It was a 6-foot reported bull shark.
That's not even small.
No.
And I mean, not that she would be able to identify it herself. She's just a novice.
Yeah.
But bull sharks are like, I believe they are responsible for most shark bites because they are the most they're the most aggressive and they go in shallow water a lot.
They're like the
they're
third
dangerous.
most. Yeah, they're the third most. The other ones are tiger, sharks, and great white. So they are not the most, but they're certainly one of the most aggressive. And they definitely don't like it when you try and get in their space and touch them or grab them. Some people report that she was trying to grab it, not just put her hands on it. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, I talked about this last week, but one of my big shark fears is sharks. Galeophobia or salatrophobia, as we talked about. And so, this would not be me. As soon as I see shark, I'm out of that water as quickly as possible.
And it's clear water there in the Caribbean. You could see the shark from probably a mile away.
Yeah, literally, they show a picture in this article of like where this took place, and it's like a Google Earth view, and it's like, very high up. You would be able to see the shark from there. That's how clear this water is. So it's just overall dumb. What were you thinking? No way was this going to end up being a good outcome, in no scenario of you trying to pose with the shark, touch a shark, or grab a shark would it end up being good.
They say in the Turks and Caicos it's actually illegal to feed sharks because they want to try to mitigate the, avoid. There's about one shark attack per year in this country, which is not a big country, but it is surrounded by water. But about one shark attack per year, but they want to keep bringing that down, so you're not allowed to feed sharks there. Does this count?
Right. I don't know. I mean, I would imagine if the shark took a bite of it, it's not like, oh, let me spit it out. It probably did eat it.
Is she not only missing both her hands, but also like now in legal trouble? It seems like she should be.
Yeah, I don't know if the legal trouble will come. Hopefully they'll be like, hopefully your 2 missing hands is a lesson enough.
And you're not allowed to come back here.
Yeah, that might be. Do
not return.
I doubt you would want to return where you lost both hands.
What do you think she tells people when she goes back? Her identity hasn't been revealed, but they believe she's from Canada.
Yeah.
What does she tell people when she goes back to Canada and she's missing both her hands?
Well, don't go to Turks and Caicos for one.
I think a lot of people can go to Turks and Caicos and be just fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I would hope that she would own up to how stupid this was and that she would realize, I shouldn't have done that and definitely don't do this. Learn from my mistake.
She can't say a shark attacked me. Because it didn't attack her.
It just retaliated to you being an idiot.
What is the? I don't know what the word is when you are the one that's messing with the shark. Because it's not an attack.
Yeah.
What do you call it? It was a shark.
It was
what?
The shark was standing its ground. You were in its home. You were in its home, and you decided to try and grab it. It was defending itself.
Yeah, a shark defense. I don't know. A shark encounter doesn't sound right. That sounds like
I just say defend.
Swimming with dolphins.
This shark was defending its territory, and you decided you wanted Instagram likes.
Hey,
which just.
You know what? You got to hand it to her though. She's fearless. She is fearless
and handless now.
Yeah. Fired or hired on Radio U. You can chime in with your advice for this situation at 8772 Radio U, where we have someone who says, my office recently banned headphones and my coworker chews loudly.
Oh, no.
What can I do? She says, I used noise-canceling headphones to block out the noises from my coworker until recently. The person eats multiple times per day and smacks their food very loudly. A real Cow McGee situation. I understand that people need to eat, but it still drives me crazy. I asked them to stop, but they told me I sound ridiculous. I did my job perfectly when I could have used my headphones, but now management finds it unprofessional to wear them all day. What do I do here? 8772 Radio U. I feel for this person. I hate hearing people chew loudly.
Yeah, I think it's a pet peeve for a lot of people. Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one because I don't want to fully send it to be like, quit. But,
yeah.
but I'm close.
It's crazy too because they've already gone through. There was the two obvious solutions. You have an annoying coworker that chews loudly. Wear headphones. Not allowed. Talk to the coworker. Already did. They think you sound ridiculous. What's the next step?
Yeah.
8772 Radio U. We need some help here for this individual so that they can get their work done without having to worry about Cal McGee over there and they're chomping and loudly smacking while they eat. 8772 Radio U. Let us know your thoughts. D says, can you just get a pair of earbuds and hide them in your hair?
I guess you could. You could try it.
You can see if you can get away with that. Dylan, I like this, said it's an actual psychological diagnosis that people get disturbed by or upset by noises. It's called misophonia. Misophonia. So if you can actually get a doctor's note, they may have to give you the headphones. That may have to be some kind of accommodation they make for you.
Interesting.
If you can get a diagnosis of that.
You can get a little workaround.
Yeah, that might be...
It might be a good solution.
I feel like the last ditch effort because that involves going to like a doctor and stuff. And and sometimes you don't know the unintended consequences of being diagnosed with that. Who knows what else could happen?
It's true.
Good or bad that could come from that.
That's true.
Cullen says, move where you work, get a different desk, tell management how much this inconvenience is costing them inefficiency. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
You just tell management you're not getting as much work done. Although then they're really harsh. They might get mad at you for some reason.
Yeah, which you would hope that would not be the case, but that would be what I would be worried about with telling management that I'm like, I'm really annoyed because of my coworkers chewing. I would be worried that they would not be sympathetic at all.
If you come without that doctor's note that says you have misophonia.
Yeah.
That might not get you very far. Stephanie also asked to switch to a new desk. I had a similar situation where my coworker, can we cut and start over? Where her coworker would hum music all day. And so I feel like we covered that before. A similar situation. Yeah.
That, yeah.
Where a coworker would do the same thing. I like what Dijon said, which is I had this exact same situation, literally the same steps. So what Dijon eventually did is brought corn nuts and started chewing those loudly at my desk all day until somebody complained. And then I got a talking to, Dijon did. So Dijon says, then I asked why the other person was allowed to eat loudly and I had to just deal with it. But when I eat loudly, I have to stop. Now there's no eating allowed in the office at all.
Interesting. So they banned eating.
Yeah, because Bree said too, how is headphones at your desk unprofessional, but eating at your desk isn't?
Yeah, that's what I didn't get either. It's like, those are two things that you would think one would be a little more unprofessional, especially if
eating
you're
unsanitary, possibly.
Right, especially if you're getting a mess or whatever. Like I've eaten at my desk here before at RadioU, and eat my lunch there before. And if ever I brought like a loud food with me, like yesterday I had salad, which I always chew with my mouth closed, but because Nene and I's desk are like right next to each other.
Yeah.
So I always will tell Nene, I'm like, I'm sorry, I brought a loud food with me today.
Do you say that every time you bring popcorn too?
I haven't actually said that with popcorn. I've said that with carrots so far, which I only brought once. And then I said that with the salad.
Now, you have to be careful if you take the Dijon route of like, you're going to start eating loudly at your desk.
You don't want to start a war.
Well, and what could happen is if it's like Dijon's situation, which I guess he sounds pleased with, that there's no eating allowed in the office at all.
Yeah.
But if other coworkers like eating at their desks, you may become the enemy.
Yeah.
If you go that route. So I think the doctor's note for the misophonia stuff might actually be the way to go.
Or you could just quit.
You could.
Find a new job.
There seems to be a gap in your resume for a few months. Why haven't you been out of work? Because my coworker ate loudly at their desk.
You don't need to leave right now, but start looking.
Yeah, start looking. I know I shouldn't have to say this, but don't drink and drive. This warning comes courtesy of Ben Cleveland. He's been an offensive lineman in the NFL. He most recently played for the Baltimore Ravens. He just got pulled over last week after he was driving erratically in his Ford F-250 in Milledgeville, Georgia. He, of course, when he was questioned by the police, said that he had approximately 3 or 4 beers, which is what everybody, if you've ever watched anybody, if
you ever watch Cops.
Yeah, they always,
they're like 1 or 2.
Every person that's been pulled over for driving drunk, they all say, as if like, if I just admit that I had like a couple,
then that's not wrong, right? It's like, that's still driving under the influence.
They're going to believe me that I'm not drunk and I just had one and that's fine. And that's why my breath smells. I don't know. Like the reasoning, you try to get too cute. Like you might as well just lie and say you didn't drink anything because either way, they're going to find out.
Yeah.
Which they did in this case. Ben Cleveland, offensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens, surely had more than 3 or 4 beers. I love the quote is approximately too. Who says approximate? I approximate.
Approximately
when
3 to 4.
Let me think back to when I was drinking earlier tonight. I was approximately 3 to 4.
One here, one here.
It's a little fuzzy, but it was approximately 3 or 4. If I had to estimate, can't be 100% certain. He had to take a breathalyzer test. He blew a .178.
Whoa. That is crazy.
The legal limit in the state of Georgia is .08, which granted you'd be shocked how little you have to drink for the average person to hit a .08. It's very low.
Right, because you shouldn't be drinking and driving.
Exactly. But then you think about him now, he's blowing over 20 times the legal limit, And he's an offensive lineman, which means he's 6'6", 360 pounds.
Yeah.
How many beers he would have to drink to blow a .178? Obviously, it's not an exact science, but if you go by the estimates on alcohol.org, it would have had to be at least 16 beers in 3 hours.
That is insane. That is insane.
And then he thought he could get in the car and drive and get away with it.
Nope.
.178.
Nope.
I didn't even know that was possible. I don't know what the limit is that kills you, but that feels like...
It feels like you're getting too close to that.
I guess you're definitely running the risk of getting killed behind the wheel.
Yeah,
if you're blowing
for
that
sure.
kind of amount.
For sure. But yeah, like what... I'm not sure what point it is where it starts to get to like alcohol poisoning.
Yeah.
You know, where your body just starts, retching it up.
Unbelievable.
Ugh.
.178. I had this approximately 3 to 4 beers, officer. Take it again. This surely must be off.
Maybe times that by 4.
Yeah. We're obviously super amped here for the Four Nations face-off in hockey. The championship game is coming up on Thursday in Boston. We now know it'll be the United States against Canada, a rematch. After they played a game on Saturday, the United States won that had 3 fights in the first 9 seconds.
Yeah.
Hockey and some brawls breaking out. What more can you ask for?
I don't know what you could ask for. Even the Canadian head coach was saying that it was a good thing for hockey with what happened.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. And we're not the only ones excited about it here, Allie, you and I. Because I don't know if you've seen, once it was determined yesterday that it would be a Canada-United States rematch in the Four Nations Face-Off Championship, the ticket prices to just simply get in the TD Garden for this event have gone through the roof. At least as of this, it says $1,295 to get in the door for Canada versus United States on Thursday.
So that doesn't even guarantee a seat?
Well, I mean, that guarantees the worst seat in the house.
Yeah, like some type of thing in the upper bowl, in the bleachers. Yeah, nosebleeds.
That's just the cheapest you can possibly get in. And obviously, if you want good seats, they're going to be astronomically higher than that. For context, too, because that's expensive, but a lot of sporting events are expensive. It says that the only sporting events in the United States or in North America that have more expensive get-in prices typically is the Super Bowl, the College Football Playoff Championship, and the final round of the Masters.
I mean, that makes sense. I feel like even if you were to get tickets for a really big game in the NFL, you're talking about the worst seats would be $300, something like that, not $1,000.
This is a smaller stadium because it's a hockey stadium. It's not a football stadium.
Well, it's also where the Boston Celtics play.
Yeah. And it's a one-off event too.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. Based off of this, I'm sure they'll bring the Four Nations face-off back in the future. Mm-hmm. But this is me and Mrs. Hudson were talking about this because she's been super amped up about it too.
Yeah.
Really into it. And the reason we were talking about how the reason it's so big is because for these players from the United States and Canada and for Sweden and Finland too that were participating, this is because the NHL players haven't been allowed at the Olympics. This is the first time they've been able to compete to represent their country for an event this big.
Yeah.
Even though this is the first time they've ever even done this event. And so, and then next year they'll be allowed back at the Olympics again, which will be exciting and will be even a bigger deal. Problem is, that's not here. We can't go.
Right.
American and United States fan. I mean, we can, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
So this is just the perfect storm of everybody, the players being into it, the fans being into it, being within traveling distance of everybody. So just. Man, Thursday night's going to be electric.
It's going to be so fun. And it was also I feel and I know we talked about this when we talked about it yesterday, that it's a moment that transcended sports as well, because there were some of the U.S. players that were upset that the fans at the game in Canada were booing the U.S. national anthem. Mm-hmm. And so it just became this thing where it's the rivalry got so intense. And I love that. And so, I'm so excited for the rematch. But I will say, I guarantee you Canada's going to come out swinging.
Oh,
They're going to be out for blood. So USA better be ready.
I'm curious. I feel like the stakes have been set so high, but like the bar has been set so high too. I mean, I think we're going to get a great hockey game.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get 3 fights in the first 9 seconds again. That really never happens.
I don't think that will happen, but I'm pretty sure at least one fight will break out at some point.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to The Hudson Show. Please don't forget to rate and review the podcast.